Welcome to Let's Get Creative with Sam, the podcast. I'm Sam Rawlins and I'm a children's creative counsellor. That means I help kids unlock their imaginations and explore the amazing world of creativity. But being creative can also be a great way to take care of our minds and feelings, which is super important. In this podcast, we'll be doing all sorts of fun things. We'll be sharing creative tips and tricks that can help us feel good, interviewing other awesome creative folks in the industry who use creativity for mental well-being, and maybe even doing some creative challenges together that can help us express ourselves. So buckle up, get ready to unleash your creativity and explore how it can help us feel our best, and let's have some fun. Hello, good morning. I am so happy to be back. I can't even speak, I'm that excited. Welcome to my series, Let's Talk About Creativity with Sam. And this is season 3, episode 1. And wow, I can't believe it. It's been a while since we were here, and here we are again. Okay, so today, my very first guest is Vicky Howden, and she's going to talk about supporting children with counselling. So let's bring her on.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you, Vicky?
You, Sam? I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not going to lie, a little bit nervous. I forgot to even say who I were. So I will just say that bit. So I'm Sam Rawlins. I'm a children's creative counsellor, and as I said, this is my series. Okay, that is me. You can catch this on live on Facebook. You can always catch it on replay later as well. Right, back to you, Vicky. So lovely for you to join me this morning.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
You are so welcome. Okay, so let's start off. So do you want to share a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, of course I can. So I'm Vicky. I am a mum of 2. So I've got 2 children. Although one technically now is not a child, is an adult. So I've got one at 18 and one at 15. I run Sunshine Coaching. So I've got a nice connection to Sam with the sunshine. We both have the Sunshine logo. So I'm a coach and mentor to women in their 40s that are looking for a career change that may have got a bit stuck because of motherhood. So that's who I work with at the minute. But today I am here to talk about supporting your child through counselling, because both of my children have accessed counselling at different points in their childhood.
Okay, so and that very much resonates with me, being a children's counsellor myself. So do you want to kind of tell everybody like how it got to that, where that your children needed counselling?
Yeah, so my eldest child accessed counselling after me and her dad separated unexpectedly, and she really struggled to deal with it and process it. And I tried my best as a mum to support her and talk quite openly about what had gone on and try to get her to understand how she was feeling and that it was perfectly normal. But it got to the point where I felt like it wasn't having any impact. It wasn't really helping her, and that I needed some external support. And that was quite hard as a parent, because as a mum, you feel like you should be able to fix everything for your children. And I realised that I wasn't fixing anything at that point. And so I sought out a counsellor for her. So she was 8, 9, nearly 9 at this point. Okay. And obviously it's not an area that you deal with very often. So trying to find a counsellor that to work with your child is quite a daunting thing, because you want it to be the right person and that they're going to understand your child and be sympathetic. So I did manage to find a lovely lady that was recommended to me through her school, a person that had worked with the school. So I got in touch with this lady, and she was really lovely on the phone. I felt a nice connection to her when I was speaking to her to ask about what support she could offer. So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable. But it also didn't mean that she would connect with my child. So they had like an initial meetup, and that was done in our home to make her feel more comfortable. And they did connect, and they worked together for, it was nearly 9 months, I think, in the end, because it took quite a long time to work through the process of the separation for her, and for her to get to a point where she kind of understood it herself a bit better. Not that she accepted it necessarily, but understood the process. So yeah, it's a very difficult thing as a parent when your child needs that support, but being able to find the right person and reach out to someone, it does give you that little feeling of relief that hopefully they will find someone to connect with that can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the things that you were saying there, especially about feeling that they're the right person. I always think that trust comes first, because if you haven't got trust, you haven't got safety. And when you've got trust and safety, then the child is ready to kind of build that relationship and then feel that they can share what's going on for them as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that as part of their sessions, she used play and creativity to help her explore her feelings, which I know is what you do, Sam. That was very much part of when they met up. They would do different things together, which she would talked about with me afterwards. She still didn't feel comfortable talking to me about how she was feeling about the whole process of the separation with her dad, but she would talk about the activities that they did. And for me, because obviously when a counsellor works with your child, they've got to respect the child's privacy as well. And that's really hard as a parent, because you are involved in every aspect of their life and you tend to know everything. So dealing with that to start with was quite hard, because you naturally expect that the counsellor is going to fill you in on everything and tell you everything that they've discussed. But that's not the case. Obviously, if it's something that's more safeguarding, obviously they will flag that up. But so I was reliant on my child to let me know, what was discussed, and they didn't always do that. In fact, probably more often than not, they didn't. But I had to trust the process and trust that the counsellor was doing the right thing and that they were moving along.
I can imagine that was one of the most difficult things for you to kind of experience while your child was having counselling, because like you very rightly said, confidentiality is the biggest part of our roles as counsellors, and especially with children, and I often get parents like emailing me. They'll sometimes send long emails because of their own worries, but also asking those questions. So when will I find out? How can you let me know after a session? And it's so difficult. So I can imagine for you that was, as I say, one of the most challenging parts of it all.
Yeah. I mean, she accessed counselling on a couple of occasions. So she had that initial session when she was like 8 or 9, and then she went back to counselling when she was probably about 15. Now, at the time, what we didn't realise is that she had autism and ADHD. She was suffered from anxiety for quite a while, and that's what had been diagnosed through a doctor. But as she got older, she realised that she was struggling a bit more and asked to go back to counselling herself, which I thought was a really positive step, that she was that aware that, she needed someone to reach out to at that age. So she went back to the same counsellor, because luckily the same counsellor could see her, and it probably gave her that reassurance. She'd already got that connection there, which was nice. And now, thankfully, she is thriving at university and, you know, living in a different city. And I do feel that counselling is something that maybe everybody should access at some point. I've had counselling myself, so after, not immediately after, I wanted to make sure my children were okay, but after my divorce, eventually I got to the point where I realised that I needed to talk to somebody about what had happened, because it was a bit of a shock. I wasn't expecting it, and I needed to go and explore how I was feeling about it. So I've been through the counselling process myself, so I know what it's like, and I know how valuable it can be. It's not a sign of weakness having to see a counsellor. It's about you getting support.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes parents often feel that, you know, it's about like almost mending their child, and they put themselves to one side, and it's like, no, it could be loads of different reasons. You know, sometimes financial comes up. There's loads of reasons why a parent will not take that support, you know, accept that support themselves. So for you to have had that, you know, must have helped your relationship as well, you know, build up, because when things are going on at home, it does affect relationships, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's hard not to, when your child won't necessarily open up to you. It's hard not to take it personally, because you feel like you've done something wrong. And so that did take me a while to accept that, and to actually say to myself that you've not done anything wrong. It's just that they need someone else. And eventually we did have a discussion as they got older, and they just felt that they couldn't be honest with me because they didn't want to hurt me. The things that they, you know, because obviously the divorce and separation involved me as well as their dad. They were worried about saying things that would upset me. So that was part of the reason why they didn't want to talk to me, and why they felt it was easier to talk to somebody that was outside the family circle, a stranger, because there wouldn't be that repercussion and that feeling for them that it might get them into trouble, and that they could truly be honest with this person.
It sounds like it was real empowering for your child and yourself as well, you know, to be able to see those changes, and like you said, be able to go to a total stranger, and children do that, don't they? They go to like, and I don't mean like, you know, we protect them all the time, don't we? You know, being a parent myself and a grandparent, and we want to keep our children safe and protect them. However, when it comes to counselling, it's different, because I'm not sure how the process went, but the way that I work it is that my first contact is with the parent, you know, because if you as a parent don't feel right, then how is your child going to, you know, and that, I feel that's part of the trust process as well, to be able to say, well, okay then, and that reassurance as well that it is okay to speak to this person.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely got to be, the trust has got to be there, because they're not going to open up otherwise. So there's got to be a real connection. And I know that from coaching adults, that there's got to be a connection there for it to work, and for that person to trust you to guide them on their journey. But yeah, my youngest has also had counselling. So they didn't have counselling after their dad left, because they were slightly younger. So didn't really fully take it in as much because they were 5. But they've had counselling as a teenager, around a lot of like social anxiety. So they were impacted quite a lot by COVID. So they left primary school during COVID and went to high school. So they had no transition like you normally would do. So they didn't get the day where you get to go to high school and kind of immerse yourself in it and meet the new people that you would be going with. They didn't have any of that. They left primary school with no like celebration of leaving it either, because we weren't in proper classes at that point. I think they were still in bubbles of 10. So they weren't even necessarily with the children that would be their friends when they left. And they've really struggled since then. with social engagement and interacting with others. And again, they asked if they could talk to somebody, which I feel like as a parent, that I need a little bit of a pat on the back for that, because I've shown them that counselling is something that is acceptable and that you can access at any point for anything, and it's not them kind of giving up, or it's them asking for support. So they went and spoke to somebody to try and work on building their resilience and developing relationships. They are a little bit of a people pleaser, which unfortunately they get from me, and I've tried to support them with that, because I found that probably more with time and maturity that I'm learning not to people please as much. But when I was younger, I was most definitely like them, and very much a people pleaser. And I think that does have an impact on the relationships that you build and how you build them. So again, it was a bit more of a collaborative process this time, finding somebody to work with, because they were older and a teenager. And unfortunately, the counsellor that my oldest child had seen didn't have any availability, so we had to start from scratch and try and find somebody. So we kind of looked online together. And what I found quite interesting is that we looked on the counselling directory, which is where you can see all the counsellors that are available, and it has a little picture of them. And they were making their decision based on what this person looked like. And I kind of got that a little bit, because as humans, that's what we do. Our first interaction usually is with how someone looks and whether they think we've got a friendly face. And they'd be like, oh no, they don't look like they're approachable. And so that was their starting point. But I kind of got it, because that is what we do. And then we would read the information and what kind of areas they dealt with. And that's how we found a couple of people and got in touch, and then eventually narrowed it down to one person. And again, initially had a conversation with them about, what they would be going to talk to them about, and anything they felt they needed to know. And then they had an initial meet up in person for them to say that, because ultimately it was their decision. They're the one working with this person. They've got to have that connection as well. So they had some in-person sessions where I would take them every week. And again, I had the same sort of feelings of them going and then relying on them coming out afterwards and telling me things if they wanted to. And if they didn't, that meant that I wouldn't find out what had gone on or been discussed. So, which I found quite interesting, because I thought I would maybe accept that a bit more this time, but it was exactly the same at the beginning. And then eventually I was like, oh yeah, this is how it's going to be. But my youngest is a little bit more open, so would have some conversations about what they discussed and any steps that they put in place. And again, it was, so they decided they didn't want to go anymore. They said they didn't feel like they were getting much from it. And I said that was fine. It was their decision to make. So they have stepped away from the counselling for now. But I have said that if it's something you want to go back to at any point, let me know. We can find somebody different, or you can go back to the same person. It's up to you. So it was very much led by them at this time, because obviously they're slightly older.
That is so lovely to hear, that the difference that the process that you went through together, like you said, more collaborative. And one of the things that I heard you say was the photo of a person, a counsellor, actually means more than reading the blurb, reading the bios. I mean, we can write some amazing bios about ourselves, but if we don't look the person that you as a parent and a child feel comfortable with, then it ain't gonna happen. That's a huge part of it. And I'm not on counselling directory, but I am very aware of it. I'm on Psychology Today, and we now have opportunities where we can do like a short 15-second video. I mean, it's quite funny trying to get, I talk a lot, so trying to get 15 seconds in like who you are, you know, like selling yourself almost. That's where it feels like in
Yeah,
some ways. But like parents have contacted me and things like that, they've very much said about my personality. So my
yeah.
smile, my picture, my little video, things like that. And so I can really kind of resonate with what you're saying. Seeing a picture of somebody or a short video is more important to start with than
It
anything else.
definitely is. I like the idea of doing like a short video because like the
Yeah,
bio stuff and all the like qualifications that people had, I know they're important, but to a child, that
mm.
doesn't mean anything. So they
No,
need something else that's going to help them connect with that person. So a photo or like you say, a short video clip that shows a little bit of your personality is key to when they're choosing somebody.
yeah, definitely. And the other thing that I heard you say as well is that your child made their own decisions, so they had their autonomy, they're making decisions for themselves. And I know you said that they were older, but that doesn't matter. You know, you can work, I can work with like sometimes teenagers that actually just want to be children again because of things that they've
Yeah.
experienced, things that have been difficult. So to be able to make their own choice and say, no, this isn't for me, you know, at this time or at all, and you appreciate respecting that decision as well, must have been huge for you and your child.
Yeah, it's because it's their life. It's you know, I
Yeah.
can't imagine what they are feeling and what they are going
Mm.
through, and I can't dismiss that because I'm not them. So if my child's coming to me or and saying, I'd like to talk to somebody, then I've got to honour that and respect that. And yes, we will have conversations and I'll try and chat through with them what the
Yeah.
issue is. But ultimately, I'm there to help them and to support them. And if they need some outside help, I want to be able to facilitate that. And I realise I am very fortunate that I can pay for private counselling because I know there are lots of people that are not in that position.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
and I know that the waiting lists are horrendous at the minute to try and see somebody through the NHS.
Yeah.
So again, I'm very grateful for that I've been able to offer that to my children.
Yeah, absolutely. So before you like made the decision to go private, did you go through the NHS to start with, Vicky?
So with my eldest child, because she was suffering at home, and I'd spoken to school about it, and they were seeing little glimpses that she was suffering.
Yeah.
They did do a referral through their cluster service,
Okay.
and she was rejected because they said that
Okay.
she wasn't bad enough. Basically, what she was suffering with wasn't bad enough. There were other children that had greater needs, and I completely understand that. But as a parent, that's devastating to hear that
Absolutely.
your child who is suffering is not suffering badly enough. There should be no
Yeah.
child that has to suffer more badly than others for them to
No.
access counselling, which is why the school were very good and gave me the number of a counsellor that had worked previously with school, but
Yeah.
also did private work. So that's how I got in touch with her. But yeah, it breaks my heart that there are children out there whose parents cannot access counselling through the NHS anytime soon and also can't afford to pay privately. So because the NHS is a wonderful thing, but it's
Yeah.
just massively underfunded, unfortunately, at the minute. And children's mental health, particularly since COVID, has taken a nosedive, and it needs
Yeah,
more and
definitely.
more support in there. I'm an ex-primary school teacher, so I've seen
Okay.
firsthand the impact that it has on children that need support that are not getting it. So
Yeah.
I would have happily gone through the NHS and let them support my child, but it wasn't an option that was going to be quick enough for us, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So the second time round, did you decide just to go for private straight away?
Yeah,
Yeah.
straight away, because I knew that the system had unfortunately got worse in the probably 7 or 8 years since we'd first tried to access it. So I knew there was no way that they would be seen. I mean, the waiting lists are nearly probably 18 months to 2 years long, and that's, you know, a week can seem a long time for a child. So asking the child to wait that long to get help and support. So yeah, we took the decision to just go privately straight away.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. You'd already been through it once, and you knew it had worked, you know, for
Yeah,
your daughter. So it was like, well, yeah, let's give it another go this time round. Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
So what you were saying about like the NHS and kind of the waiting lists and things like that, it is really it is a real struggle for parents, families, because they're just like you yourself, you know, you just want to help your child, and you become almost like you're desperate. You just don't know where to turn to, do you? And
Yeah.
you know, for some families that aren't even aware of private counsellors, you know, that can support, or they're not able to access it for whatever reason, it makes it really difficult. I mean, there is charities out there that can support. It depends on like where you live, what area you live in,
Yeah.
you know, even what county.
Yeah.
Their charities can be either sparse or quite limited, you know, like the availability as well. So it can be really difficult. And I don't want to kind of put you off as like parents that are listening saying that it's impossible, because it isn't impossible.
Yeah.
Go back to your schools, you know, go to your GP, and they will be able to give you what services are available in your area.
Yeah.
That's what, you know, that's the way to start, really.
Yeah, and there are lots of free services that the NHS
Absolutely.
offer. The high school that my children went to or go to at a minute, when they send out their weekly newsletter, often at the bottom of the newsletter they will have a list of services that you can access for free, whether that is like an online chat service that they offer, or sometimes there's one that does video calls. And both of my children have access the free service that we have currently in Leeds, which is the marketplace. But I believe, unfortunately, they have lost some funding recently.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big shame, because that was an access point for them initially when we were trying to sort out a counsellor to go private. I knew that they could go to the marketplace and just have a chat with somebody.
A drop in.
Yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity for them to just go and quickly offload. You know, even if it was about their day, it wasn't necessarily a deep dive into how they were feeling and what was going on. But yeah, there are still some good free services out there. It needs to get better, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree, Vicky. So you've gone through a whole process with your children, supporting your children and having counselling yourself. Where did it kind of take you? Because I heard you say that, you know, you used to be a primary school teacher.
Yeah. So my separation and divorce was probably a bit of a catalyst, actually, for me changing, because it made me go inwards and look at who I was, because I was that people pleaser in my relationship with my ex-husband and in general. So the counselling made me take a bit of a deep dive into me and kind of unpick things a little bit and analyse why I was a people pleaser, where that had come from. So I've done a lot of work on myself since and kind of reconnected with myself. And that's what kind of led me to being a primary school teacher in the first place. I have worked in schools, and I decided to go and get a degree, which was something that I never thought I would ever do. I left education after my A-levels, thoroughly fed up of school, and just went and got a job. All my friends went off to uni. And then obviously I became a mum and was working. But my divorce made me look at my life and think, actually, I can do something for me. And I loved being at uni. I did it whilst working full time. So I
Yeah.
had an afternoon out where I went to my lectures, and then obviously had to do my assignments and stuff around work and the kids. And at that point, I was a single mum. So it wasn't easy, but it gave
No.
me such a sense of fulfillment that I could do this, because I told myself I couldn't, that, you know, I couldn't learn anymore and I couldn't achieve anything. So I did. I got my degree, qualified as a teacher, worked as a teacher for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I think it was probably COVID and lockdown that made me reassess what I wanted to do with my life. Being able to go for a walk during the day if I wanted to, when we were all stuck at home. I loved being outside in nature. And I just started to think about what could I do differently. Teaching is very full on. It's not a 9-to-5 job.
No.
And I love being in the classroom. I love working with kids, but there's also a lot of admin. My now husband used to joke that it's the only job where you've got 2 jobs, really, because you've got the job of 9 till 3 of teaching, but then
Yeah.
you've also got the admin job that goes with it.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. So we decided to look at, and we did this collaboratively. So I've been with my new husband for 6 years now. And we just sat down and looked at our life together and how we could make it a bit more flexible and work better for us. So I decided to retrain as a life coach, and I did that whilst I was still working. And then decided to take the plunge and go into coaching full time, which I did officially from February this year. And it has given us so much more flexibility. It's hard work being self-employed. I've never been self-employed before. But it gives me, I'm around. Obviously, my eldest is at university, but for my youngest, I'm around more. I used to leave for work before they'd even got out of bed before, and I wouldn't be home till late. And now I'm here when they set off for school. I'm here when they get home. We have much more meaningful conversations about their day, because they'll actually come and talk to me as soon as they get home, and we'll just have a chat about what's gone on. Whereas before, I might be too tired or too busy to spend that time with them. So I feel like I've got a better quality of life. I still feel like I'm helping people. Or, okay, I'm not teaching children anymore, but I still feel like I'm in that helping process at this time with adults. So that's how I've ended up where I am today. And I always say that the divorce was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have had to go to counselling and really look at myself. I wouldn't be as open to counselling and see the importance of it if that hadn't have happened. So I've got a lot to be thankful for, really.
That's wonderful. And congratulations on starting from February, so still quite new.
Yeah, very much so.
So obviously you're called Sunshine Coaching. Where did that come from?
Sunshine is it is like a bit of an elixir for me. So if the sunshine is out, I feel so much better. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of wet, dark days at the minute.
Yeah,
but on those days where it may still be really cold, but the sun is shining, I just need to be outside and enjoying it, because it just gives me such joy in life. So when I was trying to come up with a business name, I knew I wanted it to be there somewhere, because it's those little, like, the glimmers of sunshine is that little glimmer of hope, that things can improve. So I feel like my coaching is what puts the sunshine back in people's lives. So that's why I wanted to use sunshine in there.
I love that. I think that's amazing. And that was part of how we kind of connected, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A business event, and you was like saying your coaching name, and I were drawn Sunshine. I was like, wait a minute, what's this all about? So that kind of, and my kind of logo is a sunshine, as you know. And then obviously, like, my tagline is I bring sunshine into the families that are apart, and it's
Yeah,
very much similar in some ways, yeah.
it is.
Um, and you're right, sunshine is glimmer, isn't it? It's that, we don't in Britain get a lot of it. So it's almost
Yeah,
like it's sometimes them ideas, that creativity, that innovation, also that inspiration as well, isn't it? And empowering
yeah,
for
yeah.
others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's those little moments, isn't it, in life, and sunshine often brings that, but it's those little sparks or that little bit of hope.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. Absolutely love it. So where can people find you, Vicky, if they want to contact you?
Okay, so I'm Sunshine Coaching on Facebook. If anyone wants to follow me on there, that'd be really good. I have a website which is sunshinecoaching.co.uk. So you can go on there, find out all about me, my backstory, see how I can help you and work with you. There's also some freebies on there. And then on Instagram, I am Sunshine for the Soul, because annoyingly somebody had Sunshine Coaching, so we had to go a little bit different.
Well,
So
that is
yeah,
wonderful.
so and I'm also on LinkedIn if anyone wants to go on there again, Sunshine Coaching. So yeah, you can find me in lots of different places.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So obviously I'm like all about creativity, so I couldn't kind of end without talking about creativity.
Yeah,
And I'm not gonna like put you on the spot as in like I have in previous series where I went, so what makes you creative? No, we're not gonna do that today. It's more about do you feel that creativity has helped as well, especially when you said like, your children went through counselling and that was very much on that play and creativity side of it, and for yourself?
yeah. So this is a tricky one because when you say to someone, "Tell me about are you creative?" and lots of people just naturally go, "No, I'm not creative." But creativity comes in different ways, doesn't it? So I would probably answer no, I'm
Absolutely.
not creative, but I have done. I used to bake a lot, and that is a creative skill. So creativity is very much a part of our household. I would say my children are very creative. So my eldest is really into photography, takes some amazing photography shots. And when they were choosing their A levels, actually, we had a conversation about it. And I said, you need to do something that you enjoy.
Mm,
Um, so as much as they wanted to pick something that would help them going forward, I was like, it also needs to be something you enjoy. And so they chose a photography A level to do. And they loved it. That was like a little bit of release from the more academic stuff where they had to write
yeah.
assignments. So yeah, and they're very much into, like, my youngest loves drawing and painting. And even at 15, we'll still get a book out and or go and buy some pencils and go, I just want to have a go at this technique.
Oh, wow.
Both of them chose art for GCSE. And I think creativity is such a good tool for being mindful and de-stressing. I'm very much
Yeah.
an advocate of, making sure you've got that time for you in whatever capacity that is, whether it's 5 minutes with a cup of tea or 5 minutes sat outside just listening to the birds, or if
Yeah.
you've got an hour, that you can do something more creative, like paint a picture, or even the mindful colouring books. I know sometimes they get a bit of a bad press, but it is a way to switch off.
I
I've
use them.
yeah, I've got them. I definitely use them. And I think it's something that you can do together as well. With your child, you can go and get out a colouring book or just a piece of paper and some pens and see what happens. And that's often the time when kids will talk to you because they're more focused on the fact that they're colouring. You're not looking directly at them. And that's when the nice conversations happen, when they might open up to you more. Lego is a big thing in our house. So we still have Lego that gets
Oh,
built.
love it.
Um, so even at 15, they're more advanced sets these days, but
Yeah.
they still will get it out and create something. So I think there's a big link between creativity and mental wellness that needs to be explored more. So I love the fact that you call yourself a creative counsellor, because that is like, it's like the creativity is like a little portal to help them open up.
Definitely. And I love how you put it as well. A little portal. That's wonderful. That's and that's the thing as well, as you're speaking, my creative brain is, I'm listening because we're talking, but also it's like, oh yeah, that's something I've heard before, you know.
Yeah.
And so I love that it's part of your household and that both your children are into it in a big way. Even though you said you're not creative, I'm sure you are, Vicky.
I probably am, but as an adult, we lose that ability, don't we, to have fun and create and play. But it needs to be there. It needs to not always be about the mundane, everyday stuff. But I do mindful colouring. I do try and instill some joy and fun into my day-to-day life when I can.
Yeah, of course. I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're kind of coming to the end, but what were I thinking then? My creative brain just went woo somewhere else. Like, come back, Sam. You're still here. Talking to Vicky. Yeah. So, 3 tips for parents around like maybe counselling, or when they're struggling with their own mental health, or as a parent about your own mental health as well.
Okay, so if you feel like your child wants counselling, or maybe they've come to you and asked for counselling, dive in and see, you know, why they think that they need it. Don't dismiss it. It's really that trust has got to be there with you as well as a parent, that you are seeing them and hearing what they are saying. You know, we're all really busy. We all have busy lives and we're quick to dismiss things. But if a child's coming to you and saying that they are struggling and that they think they need some support, just block out half an hour just to go and spend some time with them and really listen to what they are saying. You know, don't be doing it while you're cooking tea or doing something else, because that doesn't make them feel like they've been seen and heard. So that would be tip number 1. Tip number 2, I suppose, would be kind to yourself and work on your own mental health as well, because it is hard when your child is being seen by a counsellor. You know, I've already talked about that feeling of failing as a parent because they've had to go to somebody else. But it's not a failure. It's something that you should be celebrating, that you are supporting them to help them get that advice and that help that they need. But take it as an opportunity to maybe just reflect on your own life, and, you know, is there an area where that you could do with a little bit of support? And that doesn't mean to say that you need to go to a counsellor too. It could just be that you take a little bit more time out for yourself and really work on your own mental health in whatever form that takes. You know, I quite like doing some meditation, or I'll try and journal. It doesn't have to be a big chunk of time, but just something where you're actually really focusing on you. That would be tip number 2. Tip number 3, I think, is probably, I'm going to go with what you were talking about being creative, is to really try and make an effort about getting some fun into your life, because that usually is in creative ways. Maybe reconnect with a hobby that you did as a child. You know, if you really liked roller skating as a child, maybe go and try it out again. You know, something like that, because as adults we fall quite easily into that adult trap of doing the mundane. And this just reminds me, because my daughter's obviously 18 and just gone to uni, so he's now having to do all the adult things. And she often like messages me and just says to me how adulting is so boring. And I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah. And, you know, 95% of our time is boring. So try and find 5% of your day or your week where you've got something that's a little bit more creative or a bit more inspiring and really makes you smile and laugh. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Those tips are amazing. I think I'll be taking them on as well.
I hope to see you roller skating, Sam.
Oh, I loved roller skating. Absolutely loved
too.
it. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. I've got the thing as well with adults is we create all these fears in our head that we
Yeah.
could do when we were young. I mean, I loved cycling. Oh, I would cycle everywhere. The last time I got on my bike as an adult, and this is only a few years ago, where we were cycling, this bus pulled up at the side of me because it were the traffic lights, and I froze. I went into trauma response. I just froze. I couldn't move. And then the rest of that journey, I hated it, and I haven't been back on the bike since because, yeah. So we do create these fears as adults, don't we? When as kids, as teens especially, we just manage so much. So yeah, absolutely. I'll be taking a leaf out of your book on that one.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to go search for some roller skating. Absolutely. Well, it's been such a pleasure speaking to you today, Vicky. Just hearing about the support that you've provided for your children, for yourself, and your exciting journey in your business coaching as well. I wish you all the luck, and I know it will be amazing.
Thank you, Sam.
You are so welcome. So thank you so much for everybody who has joined me and Vicky today. It's been so lovely speaking to Vicky. And yeah, we've come to the end of the episode. Yeah, my brain's a little bit still, I don't know, nervous. I'm not sure. Anyway. Yeah, thank you so much. You can catch this episode on replay on my page, Sam Rawlings, and I'm so excited for my next episode next week with the lovely Lucy Hall, who's just completed the marathon. Can't wait to speak to her and find out. I know it is going to be so exciting speaking to her, and that is Tuesday the 30th at 7:30. So a different time, but that will be good as well. Yeah, so all I've got to say today is thank you, everybody. And don't forget to do your one thing a day that keeps you creative and gives you that fun and enjoyment. Bye for now.
Bye.